Come on, 2, 3.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Monday, April 4th, 2022. At our top story today, an active hurricane season is expected. Are your insurances up to date? Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Mike O'Connor is a vice president with Assured Partners. Mike, thanks so much for joining us on the program again this morning.
Thanks for having me again, Jeffrey. Great to see you as well.
It's great to talk with you. And look, Mike, I think this is right up your alley because you're not a meteorologist, but I just saw a report that AccuWeather said this is going to be another busy hurricane season here on the Atlantic coast. And you happen to be in the insurance business and you work with a lot of business owners and other folks to find the right coverages. What does this mean to you? Because, I want to look through the lens of Mike O'Connor, the insurance professional.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of years have not been great for storms. I mean, I think, looking at some of the reports, it looks like this year things are going to continue. Last year, I think there was $20 billion plus weather related events. So there's been a higher frequency of these events. And I think, for people as far as with insurance, just making sure that they're fully insured, aware of what's excluded, what's included in their policies. Down in the Southeast, wind and storm would be excluded. So you'd have to purchase separate coverage for that sometimes, and flood would always be excluded. So there's just things people need to be aware of. And I think, with more people moving from, the Northeast, I'm in Washington, D.C., more people are moving to Florida, they're able to work remotely and live in a warmer weather, but there is more risk in those areas than there is in other areas for sure.
And they may not be educated, Mike, on living in that area. Like they might have done a ton of research on the schooling, the hospitals, the cost of living, government, et cetera, right? But they may not know the things you're outlining, which is you may be in a flood area, and that may require you to have certain coverages. It really now it's almost like this is home buying season. This is really the time also, or it used to be home buying season. I guess home buying season is every day now, but it used to be, this would be the time to really look at your coverages and make sure that you have what you need, especially if you just moved.
Definitely. And the thing that we advise people when they're moving down there, so, make sure that the homes built after 2005 are built to certain codes where you will get better rates on the insurance. Before that, before 2005, you are going to pay a lot more in insurance. And then depending on the area, you're going to be more limited in what options for carriers that you have. The typical high net worth carriers will not always write, coastal properties unless you have homes outside of that area, in non-catastrophic areas as well. So just being aware of what that additional costs are for insurance. And that's something we try to explain to our clients. Some of our carriers would provide estimates if they just, give them an address ahead of time. So that's a nice feature. But yeah, I think people just need to be educated on these different risks. Moving from Maryland or Virginia, it's pretty basic to get insurance around here. I mean, flood is, the main risk, and fire and the other basic things. But yeah, when you move down to Florida, it's a whole different ballgame for sure.
And this is where an agent, someone like yourself, I mean, you hung up the cleats. You're now a professional in the insurance industry. You have the resources, the tools to work with the carriers, right? You go out and get quotes. So it's not like you go online and you just see 4 quotes. You're buying car insurance and you see 4 quotes. There's a lot that you have to understand, and you actually walk the client through that.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, no coverage is going to be exactly the same. So understanding the nuances with each carrier and helping the clients make an educated decision. I mean, as a broker, our job is to go to the market and then present the best options to the client, explain them the differences, and kind of advise them on what they should do. and educate them. I mean, the client can choose to do whatever they want, but our job is to make sure that they're aware of the risks they're taking on. I mean, really what our job is to do is to make sure if they do have, a claim or an accident, that their personal assets stay intact, their home's fully insured. So that's really what our job is.
Mike, if you're a business owner, a small business owner, or a large business owner, you're inviting clients to your office, but also workers back. Are there trends that people need to be aware of now that people are kind of going back to the office? Not everyone is back to the office, and I know a lot of people are fighting going back to the office. They only want to go back part of the time, which I guess is kind of cool if your employer will let you do that. But things that maybe have evolved in terms of trends and what to consider if you're a business.
Yeah, for us, the biggest issue with people working remotely is that, people are moving to different states. So the biggest issue on the business side is with the workers' comp, that you need to make sure if those people are working remotely from another state, that they need to be on a workers' comp policy for that state. So sometimes people are not aware of that. But yeah, that's one of the biggest risks with all the people not working in offices. And then as people are coming back, if they did make any changes to those policies, just making sure that stuff is up to date as changes are being made.
And Mike, I have to ask you, with all the hacking going on, and we're seeing this at the geopolitical level, cybersecurity insurance, is that it is a need for any business, I would think. And are you seeing the premiums go up as hacks? It used to be hacks didn't really happen. Now they happen with great frequency.
Yeah, we are seeing increased frequency of claims. I mean, I think if you turn on the news, I think everybody's aware of that. 2 or 3 years ago, when cyber insurance was a newer type of policy, not everybody was buying that coverage. Now most people are purchasing it. In the last year, costs of it have gone up, about 50%. So when there's a high frequency of claims, and insurance companies are paying out a lot of money, they are going to raise their rates. So, but I do think it is an important coverage. And a lot of the things that the insurance companies, not just, pay out claims, but help you get back up and running your business quicker than you would be able to, because they have resources that do this all the time. So I think time that could be wasted if you have to figure that out on your own, if you don't have that coverage, is an overlooked part of the insurance piece, because the carriers would help you get back up and running quickly.
Yeah, you need to get the servers back up. I mean, we all live in the cloud now, right? And you need to restore what you lost if you lost something, and you need to ensure that your clients have faith in you. That's one of the things that kind of goes away if you have an event like this. Your clients can lose faith in you. That's a reputation risk.
Definitely, and I think being at if things are shut down for a day or two, I think most people will be okay with that. But if it takes you 2 or 3 weeks to get back and running, that would be an issue for some people. Yeah.
Well, Mike, I need to take a very quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about spring training and the upcoming Major League Baseball season with Mike. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking this morning to Mike O'Connor of Assured Partners. Mike, thanks so much for sticking with us this morning.
For having me, Jeffrey.
And if the audience didn't pick up on it, Mike is a former Major League Baseball pitcher, played in the major leagues for quite some time. And Mike, I want to, I guess, start off this segment is asking you: do you ever get the, with the spring blooming and the beautiful weather that we're starting to have, do you ever get the urge to put the cleats back on and grab the ball in the rosin bag and step back on that rubber and go through spring training again?
Yeah, so I finished playing in 2014, so it's 2022 now. So it's been 8 or 9 years since I've been to spring training. The first couple of years I think was tougher, but now I'm getting ready for my daughter's softball season starting this weekend. So, I've kind of filled that itch with being involved with my kids' sports at this point.
Yeah, well, you still look like you could throw it. And Mike, a lot of changes for this season. I think there's a new collective bargain agreement. We're not going to even touch that. It looks like the sides have worked things out. Spring training is back up and running, and the season pushed back a little bit. But there's a designated hitter now in both leagues. I think that's probably very significant. When you heard that someone in your position, because I think you played for the Washington Nationals, and you had to bat, right? And so now the pitchers don't have to bat anymore.
Yeah, I think that's something that was long overdue. I mean, I think with where the game's gone, how specialized a lot of guys are at a young age. I think it's in the best interest of the game, have more competitive at bats. It does take away some of the strategy with the pitcher batting. I mean, a lot of times, if you have 2 outs, you could just pitch around the eighth batter to get to the pitcher to finish the inning out. And then the bunting and all that stuff kind of comes out of it, and the double switches. I think the good thing, I was never a really strong hitter. And I hit a little bit in high school, but that was about it, and not even that much in high school, honestly. But it wasn't really a competitive bat. I think I finished with 2 hits in the big leagues and 50 some at bats. So not a lot of power or anything like that. So I think taking that piece out and putting somebody into that spot that's probably a much better hitter than most pitchers is good for the game, and kind of reduces the chance that, the pitcher would get injured doing something they just don't do all the time. And then just allow the pitcher during the game to focus on just pitching, not having to run the bases, not having to, prepare to hit. So for me, it was kind of a distraction because you get used to just pitching, and then all of a sudden you're in the, AAA and the big leagues, and you have to hit. So it's fun, but it's also kind of, takes you out of your game a little bit as well.
Well, you had 2 more hits than I do in the big leagues. And of course, I never played in the big leagues. I'd be afraid of like a curveball coming at me. I'd be ducking out of the way. Mike, when you look at this season, and we've had a lot of free agency people moving around, what's your, I think you bring a very interesting insight because you played in the league. When you look at the teams, who in your mind across both the AL and the NL are strong competitors this year? And are there any outliers? I mean, I have to ask you about my Baltimore Orioles, of course, 3 consecutive 100-loss seasons. But what's your outlook for this year's season?
Yeah, I think a lot of the teams that were really good last year are still going to be really strong. I mean, the Dodgers, signing Freddie Freeman, I think that's, their lineup's stacked. They have a really good, pitching rotation. The Mets made a lot of improvements, bringing over Max Scherzer and some other, key free agents there. So I think those teams are looking really strong. The Nationals look like they're kind of rebuilding this year a little bit with their roster. The Orioles, I think they're close to really having a lot of talent, young talent on the roster, but it would be nice to see them fill in that roster with some more experienced players at some point. But it doesn't look like they did much to do that this offseason. So, I think, as young players come up, I mean, I know they have, the number one prospect in all of baseball, I think, with the catcher Adley Rutschman, and then they have another pitcher that's, a top 10 prospect. So I think the future looks good in Baltimore, but typically it does take guys, a couple of years to adjust to the big leagues and really find, it's hard to, the minor leagues prepares you for it, but it is a different level, than AA, AAA, or A ball for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly the best of the best. Mike, I have to ask you, do you, as a player, did you read the sports section of the Washington Post when you played with the Nationals or the Washington Times? Do players, because there's a lot of people making assessments, right? And if you're trying to make it in the show, and people can say, your team is not that good, and maybe there are certain stars and not stars. But as a player, do you read those periodicals, in the sports pages?
I mean, I grew up reading the sports page every day. I don't get a paper anymore at my house, but when I played, they always had papers in the clubhouse, and most of the stuff I look at, I just look at box scores, right? And then you read the transactions, box scores. Sometimes you'd read the articles about the games and things, but I mean, you definitely see it. But I was more into just tracking what how other people I knew were doing, how other teams. What was going on in the league, and just following the other sports as well. So always been a huge sports fan, NFL, college sports, basketball. So keeping up with all that stuff as well.
Last question here, Mike. Analytics have become a big part of the game, and watching video to prep for the game, if you're a pitcher and you're going up against all these other hitters, did you and do the pitchers of today have to look at like stat sheets and look at someone doesn't hit the curveball well, they don't like the slider, they hit the fastball really well? Is that a big part of what you did and what they're doing now?
For me, it was a huge part. I mean, just watching the games, how hitters are reacting. And the thing that I would always do is, watch, I was a left-handed pitcher, big curveball, slider, and a good changeup. So trying to find other pitchers with similar repertoires, to watch them face, the team that you're facing and seeing how they were attacking guys, how they're having success, how they weren't having success. I mean, I think is a huge key. Like, a lot of what I was able to do was, pitch to somebody's weaknesses. I mean, you always do have to stick with your strengths sometimes, but, trying to exploit, what hitters don't do well. So I think that's a huge part of the game. Where I think it has changed with the analytics, I mean, teams have really crunched into those numbers and ran all the reports, and that has got a lot more advanced with the amount of information. When I was playing, that was kind of the job of the pitching coach, kind of did all that, right? And, he did 100 other things. So now they have, whole staffs. Some teams have a like a pitch strategy type coach on the staff that all he does is work with the catchers and the pitchers on how they're going to attack certain hitters each inning. So that has really evolved how detailed teams have got with that, and where it used to be on the pitching coach and the pitcher to, really really spend more time doing that. There's just so much more information available in the game now.
Well, Mike, I know you've been out of the game for quite some time, but I just want to remind you, Tom Brady, unretired, and he looks like he's going for another season. There's always the opportunity if you want to give up coaching. I'm sure someone will be looking for you. Mike O'Connor, great to talk to you as always. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Jeffrey, and great to see you.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Well, hey, drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news in lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more, and all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. And hint, it's free. Want to search our archives? Check out our latest content? Well, check out our website and our streaming partners like Amazon, Roku, Samsung, over 100 more. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Waiting here for you to take and drink of. But if you're tired, come on.
Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the first lifestyle and wellness network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.
Are you being audited? And do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.